Hi, I'm Vicki Abraham, and I am an entrepreneur coach with resilient entrepreneurs, and I'm excited to be on the Prosperity Show with Prosper. And what we're going to talk about today is really about getting out of your own way. When you're an entrepreneur, there's so many things that hit us from external factors, things that come in the way of our progress, or so we think. And then there's all those other things that come from inside. There's things that slow us down, that put the brakes on, that hold us back. And I think the conversation really covers a lot of that stuff, along with some of my personal journey and how I've worked through it. So I really hope you enjoy this episode. I certainly enjoyed having the conversation.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and today I'm thrilled to be joined by none other than Vicki Abraham. Now, Vicki, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm fabulous. Thank you, Prosper. Even better for being here.
Absolutely. Well, the pleasure is all mine. I can't wait. And for those that are tuning in to the Online Prosperity Show, Vicki is a powerhouse in resilience, coaching, and a master of self-awareness. Now, Vicki brings a wealth of experience, having transformed her own struggles into a journey of empowerment, and she's doing that for others right as we speak. And she's here to help us understand how to actually release a lot of personal blocks that we might have that are keeping us from thriving, with an extra dash of wisdom for entrepreneurs everywhere. And she has hinted on having new products and new programs that she might just spill the beans on, during the conversation today. So fingers crossed, we might get to that stage. But if you've ever felt held back by either self-doubt or limiting beliefs, I want you to get ready to be inspired, because Vicki's approach is all about turning obstacles into opportunities and actually showing up with more confidence, drive, and purpose every single day. Now, wouldn't that be nice? Right? So we're going to be diving into her unique methods and also hearing some incredible life lessons and learning why you absolutely want Vicki in your corner. And while I was looking her up, I just discovered a bit of a fun fact. I mean, who wouldn't? It's the internet and it delivers. Vicki has actually swum the Antarctic Ocean, and I wouldn't be able to swim across a pool, but if somebody can swim across an ocean, all parts of an ocean, that's a skill and a lot of resilience that we obviously need to learn from her. And I don't know about you, but I'm just eager to hear the story behind all of that and more. So let's dive in. Now, Vicki, I could go on and talk about things that pretty much I am not qualified to talk about. Let's begin a little bit with your journey. Tell us a little bit about the pivotal moment that made you realize you really wanted to help others break through their own limiting beliefs.
Oh, Prosper. First of all, thank you for that incredible introduction. I feel like a really special person now, having heard all those things about me. And isn't it nice when we can hear those things that are true and we don't often give ourselves the time or even consider doing that for ourselves? So I'm going to start with one recommendation, if I may. I'd highly recommend that people stop, pause, and think about some of the amazing things they've done in their life and write themselves an intro, because that felt fantastic. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, the pleasure is all mine. I mean, when you're having somebody who's got a large body of work and a CV to boot, the least you can do is really showcase the snippets of what they have done. And I know there's more.
Oh, that's so sweet, so kind. And you asked about the pivotal moment, and I would have to take it back to over 10 years ago when I was running a business for myself. I'd always dreamed of being the entrepreneur. I'd always wanted and yearned for that freedom that I felt came from building my own business. And I dabbled in things along the way as a younger woman. And it was Don't laugh. But it was Richard Branson's book, Losing My Virginity, I believe is the title.
Yeah.
And I read that cover to cover. It's his biography, and it absolutely inspired me to lean into my dreams and to what some people might call take a risk. I didn't see it as taking a risk. I just saw it as backing myself. So I did it. I started a business, and it wasn't so much the book that was the pivot moment. It was the failed business that ensued that became the pivot moment. So I could say, sadly, the business did not succeed. But now, 10 years on, I'm so grateful that it didn't succeed, because it has helped me become who I am. It's had so many lessons in there. And it's one of my favorite expressions is that building your dream business is the greatest personal development journey you can take. And people don't often consider personal development with business, yet they are intricately entwined. If any business owners out there are listening or watching this, and think back to the many tough times that they've faced, the challenging decisions they've had to make, the difficult conversations they've had to have, any number of experiences that business has provided them, that also has helped them grow personally. And I'm certain that they would agree with that. And I have had a number of experiences like that myself. And that really was the pivot moment. My failed business. And I said, this is not going to define me. Although in the moment, it very much defined me. So for a little bit of background on that, whilst the business failed, I wasn't seeing it as a logical process. I was seeing it as a reflection of myself. And I do not believe this is uncommon. I think a lot of the time what happens to us in our world, we allow it to define us. We create a story, we create meaning around it that makes us feel a certain way. And I have to tell you, I felt pretty bad. I felt worse than pretty bad. I actually was going to bed at night, every night, for probably a couple of months, dreaming, hoping, praying that I didn't have to wake up the next morning.
Wow.
That's how bad it felt to be in a situation that felt hopeless and like such failure. And what I really needed at that time was a coach who could help me get out of that funk. I needed somebody to guide me. You talk about the hero's journey, Prosper, and it's a big part of the hero's journey is to meet your mentor. You know, you're in pursuit of your quest. You have the dream. The dream is always alive, whether you're chasing it, whether you're going for it or not. It's always there. Sometimes we can push the dream aside, or we can dampen it, or we can say, oh, it doesn't matter anymore. Of course it matters. If you really give yourself that opportunity to tap into that dream again, or if you put yourself, 50 years further into your life, hopefully, where you're coming to the end of your life and you wonder, what if I had done that? What if I'd listened to the whisper in my heart? And that's my mission. My mission is to support entrepreneurs who have a whisper in their heart and they want to chase their dream. They want to build their dream business. They could be at the beginning of their journey. They could be well established and ready to scale, and they still feel that there's something they are holding themselves back from. That's the sandpit that I play in, and it's wonderful.
Absolutely. And this sandpit is definitely walled over. I think a lot of people, just as a statistic says, not a lot of people go past year 3 in business and year 5 and then pretty much year 10. Those are really strategic and pivotal years as people sort of get started and things of that nature. But just to, create a bit of context around all of this, what sort of business was it that you started?
Yeah, thank you. So it was a kids yoga business.
Right.
And that was so close to my heart. I was a yoga instructor already for adults, and it was an opportunity that I saw to bring peace to humanity from a young age. And so it was more than kids yoga. It was really about helping young people, little people, even 5 and 6 years old, in just starting school, to learn how to find peace within them. And what a gift a person would have to carry that through their life, having learned it at such a young age. And I was successful with a few. Of course, there were success stories. Of course, it was well received. Yet, to some extent, I couldn't get out of my own way to do the things I needed to do. I even took on a business coach. But my business coach was talking about the business. They were talking about the things I needed to do, the things I knew I needed to do, and wasn't doing it because something else inside me was holding me back. And that's where we get stuck as entrepreneurs quite often. So I'm an entrepreneur coach, not just a business coach, an entrepreneur coach.
Absolutely. You know what I like about what you're bringing to the table here, Vicky. You're not one of those people that maybe went to a seminar on a weekend and then walked across some burning coals, and on the way back they bought a laptop and started calling themselves a coach. You literally had the lived experience of having started a business and things of that nature. But my heart is with you here, Vicky, because and as much as I'm just looking at the business at face value, you literally had to sell yourself twice. First to the parents, and then second to the kids. Because I'm just looking at the age group of the people that you're trying to reach out to. I can't even get my little girl to eat breakfast, and it's supposed to help her. So I can only imagine what you would have gone through trying to get them as an extracurricular activity.
No, you have such insight, and it's such accurate insight too. And you find some interesting ways to appeal to little people, to help them realize that this is what they really want to do. And
Absolutely.
it's actually, there's a lot of lessons in that. I'm really glad that you brought that up, because you warned me of this. You warned me that there might be some dots connecting in this conversation that I hadn't connected before, and that was one of them. Because clearly the way to help a little person come to awareness that they want to do something is to start where they're at, is to speak in their terms, to offer them a choice, to ask them what's important to them. And imagine if our conversations with everybody
Yeah.
started with what was important to them. What's important to you, Prosper?
Absolutely. Well, for me, is to make sure that every entrepreneur is successful in their endeavor. For me, that's very, very important. But also, what else is important is watching people really grow into who they're supposed to be. Like you said, business is a personal development endeavor. So many people sit back and marvel at who they've become just because they've expressed themselves through business and watching their product or their service being used by other people who are now making their lives better. So it's just that sort of web of events that just really makes it all worthwhile for me, Vicky. But speaking of kids, we were at a carnival in Thailand with my little girls, and my little girl is 5 years old. And you spoke about having them seeing things from where they are and the view that they had. Right. When we were standing, there was a lot of people around us. And I noticed that my little girl was tired just because she couldn't see what was happening. So she was not energized by the event. She was just tagging onto me saying, I'm tired, I'm tired. And then when I lifted her up, put her on my shoulders, and now she had a bird's eye view of what was happening. She was now dancing, and I'm like, where's the tired girl who was tired before? So all she could see below was people's knees, and that's not fascinating at a carnival. So you are absolutely right. So many we need to get people started from where they're at. But
Yeah. And understanding that perspective, understanding that her perspective was people's needs. naturally, you wouldn't want to be in those shoes. You wouldn't want to be standing around looking at people's knees while everyone else is having fun, would you now? It's so beautiful that you came to where she was at and you recognized that if you offer her a new perspective, it may also change her mood, her outlook, and her outcome. And that's really what we're talking about today. That's what we talk about with entrepreneurs. If there's a problem, the most beautiful model, if there's a problem, I see it as this solid thing. You can look at it from this perspective. Or you can change your perspective and then wonder, is it still the same problem? Now, in actuality, the same event or the same set of circumstances exist in the same way. But when we look at it from a different perspective, we find that the problem can actually dissipate or change in a way that feels a lot more manageable. And it's remarkable how powerful that awareness can be.
Absolutely. It's just our thoughts or the meaning that we place within a particular situation. Because have you ever noticed that as a business person, you might have maybe an accounting issue or a marketing problem or some sort of legal issue. And as soon as you pick up a call to a lawyer or an accountant or a marketer, they'll just be like, oh, you only need to do X, Y, and Z. And just knowing that information alone will actually, dissolve whatever you're going. So, information changes situations. Now, when we sort of started, you introduced us to you being an entrepreneur and how that identity sort of really, really bogged you down. And, it created, that problem for you. What were you doing before you read the Richard Branson book? What was the life like before?
Yeah, interesting question. I think I was, the word drifting comes to mind, but it was more active than that. It was not giving too much consideration to a future path. So it was just taking every day as it comes, just being, just existing. And that's fine. That worked for a certain amount of time. Yet I do believe that all of us have within us some kind of a hope and dream and aspiration, and we know that we're more when we're more than what we're doing. It's not about necessarily having more, although it can be for some people. That's fine too. There was just that whisper inside that said, what am I doing this for? And I remember hearing myself say, I have 2 university degrees. I was blessed with a good education. I can touch anything and it's successful. I can create stuff. I can be successful in my world. So what am I doing? Just taking a day at a time. Like, what's my higher purpose? What's my plan for life? I was in my, what would it have been, early 30s? Yeah. So that's what I was doing, really, like just taking life as it comes, which I think most of the population does.
I mean, when you're in that sort of cycle of being, you then just succumb to societal expectations. You go to high school, like you're saying, you had your degrees, you obviously start considering having a family, get a job, or things of that nature, and everything else is just linear. But you then had that pattern break with that book that came along in the form of, Richard Branson, like a Virgin and things like that. But when you then started, you mentioned that you had a lot of self-doubt, and would that have been imposter syndrome? Or was it you not being in the right sort of, like you said, right sort of frame of being, or you were taking yourself from things that were normal to you going into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, trust me, that's a great question, because at the time I didn't realize that I had anything missing. I was just excited about starting the business. I was excited about putting stickers and labels on my car. I was excited about getting social. I don't even know. Was there social media? I think Facebook was a new thing. So I was excited about that. I was excited about looking at getting flyers printed and putting them in letterboxes in the area. And, I have a marketing background. So I was really leaning into the marketing of it. And I thought, yeah, this is what the world has been waiting for. I'm so excited. And then what I realized, well, it wasn't about realizing, it was about what the business brought up for me. So when we have a dream and we believe the world is ready for it, and then we go out there and share it with the world, and the world says, what's that? And why are you doing that? And even though I had a good reason myself, I wasn't convincing anyone why they needed kids yoga. And all I can say is this, what I said earlier was that business is the greatest personal development journey. It's like being in a relationship. Stuff happens, stuff comes up that you didn't know was within you. And you use the term imposter syndrome. It most definitely was a part of it. And a part of it was when someone says, oh, no, I don't need that, or that's not a good idea, or you're wasting your time, or anything that isn't a positive, yes, let me give you some money. It becomes, I attached meaning to it. Yeah. I thought, oh, well, that means it's a bad idea. Or that means I'm not good at what I do. Or maybe I'm not a good yoga instructor. Or maybe this wasn't a good idea. It's the self-doubt, the second guessing that creeps in. And if you aren't using the tools, when you aren't using the tools to combat that, to have conversations with yourself in those moments, it becomes a downward spiral. And then you start to believe the meaning, and then that meaning gathers meaning, and then it becomes a snowball of negativity that brings you to a sudden halt.
And pretty much when you're down in your luck like that, usually that's when you say, you're gonna need a mentor or something to break that pattern for you, because it just becomes a vicious cycle. But for you had, or you heard, a voice that you then sort of listened to and somewhat utilized to get yourself out of that slump. Is that something that just happens to Vicki, or it's available to everybody else?
I wish I knew. I think what I would say that I hit what was my rock bottom. And I guess that one day, there was one day I went hiking because I know that nature can pick me up. I knew I was at a pretty rock bottom. I knew it was not feeling, this isn't a way that I could continue to exist. I mean, ideation, I won't go into the details of it because there's something about suicide ideation that can sound
like glamorous. An instruction, right?
Yeah.
Like a recipe.
Yeah, and it can kind of sound glamorous in a way, which it definitely is not. It's really the place where you are when you feel there is no other option. There is no way out. I had debt. It wasn't just a failed business. It was debt. It was personal sense of failure. It was all of those things. There was emotional and actual. And I now don't see it as failure at all. But in the moment, that's how it felt. And the other thing I'd really love to share with you, your audience, is that feelings are not facts. I did not know that at the time. Feelings are not facts. Feelings can change. In fact, we have control of our feelings. We can choose to feel however we want at any given moment in time, in any set of circumstances. If I had known that then, perhaps I wouldn't have been on the journey. But that journey's now given me my strength. So I'm good with that.
To whom much is given, much is required.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So, did I answer the question? Where were we going with that?
Yeah. I'm really excited about all the points that you're bringing across, because this is really shaping to who you've become and why everything has turned out the way that it has turned out. Now, while you are in this moment, Were there any sort of expectations? I mean, obviously, as I keep referring to like my kids or things like that, and you can go there if you feel like, but were there sort of any expectations that were sort of sitting on you being successful in this business? Would it have been family was looking into what you're doing, or friends, or had you literally gone in and, you know, what did people do? Tilted all the tables and like, I don't care about anything. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. You know, you guys. what
I
was
would love
riding
to have
on this
been.
success?
Yeah, I would love to have been that person, Prosper. I would love to have said, I don't care what you think, I'm doing this anyway. And perhaps that was part of the problem, that I didn't have that spirit, that entrepreneurial spirit at that time. I very much felt under the watchful eye, can we say, of some family and just society as a whole. These expectations are never the other person's expectations. So let's get that clear. I now know that I didn't then, which was when we feel pressured by others' expectations, it's actually us pressuring ourselves. It has nothing to do with the other person's expectations. But the weight of it felt real. So there we go again. What's real, what's perspective, what's perceived. So yeah, there was me feeling pressured, me pressuring myself based on what I thought the rest of society, and particularly my family, who'd lent me money for this venture, expected of me. Yet I never had that conversation with them. We never talked about what their expectations might or might not be. That was me assuming. That was me feeling all kinds of stuff like, guilt, shame, a lot of shame, because I had high expectations and high standards of myself. And I'm still a big one to be in favor of high standards, but not to the point where they're going to crush you and you're going to self-judge, where you're going to basically self-abandon because you would never talk to somebody else the way you talk to yourself. So let's go with some self-advocacy in business, right? Let's really look at what we have achieved, because even to have done a simple exercise like I currently do, it's called a brag book. And a dear friend offered me this as a suggestion. And I just love doing it. It's literally a book that you put aside, and you start from when you left high school or before, if you choose. And you just list bullet points, all the fabulous things you've done in your life that you feel proud of, things that feel cool, things that you wouldn't mind sharing with people. And then every day you can add to it, just one or two things at a time. Just even one thing a day. Find one thing a day you'd love to brag about, that you're proud of. Imagine what that does to your psyche, to uplift you. And so, yeah, perhaps things aren't going the way you'd anticipated. Perhaps you're not getting the sales that you expected. Perhaps this idea is taking longer to get off the ground than you thought. All that means is that there's maybe a message that needs tweaking, or some marketing that needs tweaking, or you just haven't spoken to enough people about it yet to get the person to say, yes, I love that idea, let me partner with you. But instead of looking at all the stuff that's not happening, look at the stuff you've done. And this is what we talk about when we talk about shifting perspective.
You can see the big smile on my face, Vicky, because I didn't know that is what it was called. But look at how far it is for me. I literally have a diary for, I'm going to date this episode right now, but what it does is every single time I read, or I have a very good conversation with someone, or I have a good conversation with my team member, or I have something good happening, I literally write it down in the book right next to me. All right. So obviously I'm definitely going to write, how do you spell your last name again while we're at it?
Abraham, Abraham. There we are. I'm in your brag book. I'm honored to be in your brag book, Prosper. That's so exciting.
You see, so basically you could go through the whole day. The things we measure ourselves as entrepreneurs, usually things that are on the surface. Maybe we measure ourselves by sales, by maybe, somebody booking us on a podcast, or whatever it is that you value, that you think signifies you being an entrepreneur. But the fact that you actually maybe made it, obviously I'm at home, but made it in time for dinner, that's a win. for me. Not a lot of people are able to do that. This is now the third time I'm counting, and I think this is probably the last that I'm talking about my little girl again, you know, because I was literally out there playing with her in her new little car, and we were just taking videos, and it was just fun in between stuff. So things like that, right? Those are little wins, and I call them little accessories, Vic. You know, the little accessories that you put on your actual garment or outfit of success. Because so many people just want to have the big grand gown and everything else for graduation, but they forget the little accessories that they pick up along the way. So thank you so much for giving a name to something that I was already doing. And
And thank you for giving your name Successories. I absolutely love that. If it's okay with you, I'll start using that with clients. Successories is brilliant.
absolutely, yes, it's little accessories of success, you know.
Yes.
But yeah, let's talk about resilience.
Before we talk about resilience, I'd love to talk about your daughter one more time, if I may. Because I saw your daughter on that wonderful video of this time next year. When
Oh,
you had that beautiful interview, and it really was heartwarming. And I'm going to share that video with everyone I know. It's just beautiful.
thank
And
you.
I just wanted to acknowledge you for taking that journey and for for putting the effort and the energy into finding a woman who you felt made such an impact in your world. It was a remarkable story. And
Thank you
so
so
thank you
much.
for
Well,
sharing that with the world.
you did mention gratitude. All right. That in and of itself was an act of gratitude because I wouldn't be where I'm at had I not, I wouldn't be this tall had I not been standing on shoulders of giants. And it's just moments like that that sometimes you go through life and you might actually have impacted a kid during a yoga session. And maybe you were only meant to impact one kid. If you really look back at the kids that you helped, maybe one of them went on and did bigger, better things that they wouldn't have had you not crossed their path. So it's certain things like that, you know, where in that class that I was in, there was 50 other kids, and there's usually a lot more in a class. And yet I was the one that literally validated that teacher's journey. And she's been doing it and she's still doing it up until now. So you can only imagine it only takes that one person who really shows up. And I had the opportunity to be that one person for that teacher of mine. So I really acknowledge you for seeing that, because some people just think, oh, it's nice, he was on TV, but there's a lot more behind that, and it's a story of resilience, something that you talk about. So maybe you can help define resilience for us, because you often speak about resilience in a way that really goes beyond just pushing through. So many people don't see the water. I mean, so many people don't see the air that they breathe, and fish don't see the water they swim in. But you define resilience and just pushing through, being there. Can you explain what resilience really means to you and why it is essential for today's fast-paced world?
Prosper, thank you for that question. I love that question because it helps me to bring awareness to what I see resilience as being, which is the opposite of resistance. And quite often, I don't know about you, but what your view is of resilience. Is it about pushing through? Is it about the hard yakka? Is it about closing your eyes to all the stuff that might be in front of you and just getting it done? Is that what resilience means? I question it. Because
You see, for me, and I like that, because resilience for me is we are in this world not of our own liking, but there is a higher power that has a map or a strategy or some sort of definition of how our lives are supposed to be. And each of us might be like a character in a game, have to go through either ordeals or endeavors or stuff so that we can help others be, do, and have a happier existence. If we have gone through what we have gone through, because I viscerally believe we're here to live, to learn, and to contribute. When you have learned all you can, you will now be able to live your best life. And that now becomes a contribution to humanity because you're helping others, go past those things. So yes, those things that you go through are a little bit of a test, but that's how you then get a testimony, because if you haven't gone through stuff, what story would you have, especially to tell on the Online Prosperity Show?
I love, exactly right. I love that. And the way you describe it as a game is so true. And how do we be the best player in that game? How do we make sure that we can get through those gates and pass those tests to get to the next level? Well, my view is resilience. Resilience is really about learning to trust yourself to a point where you know that any circumstance, any challenge that you face, you've got this. You'll get through it. You've got this. When you have that level of inner trust that you can face any dragon and either ride the dragon, duck the dragon, slay the dragon, do whatever it's going to take to free yourself from the dragon, then you have resilience. And this is something that comes with practice and awareness.
Right, because you can't tame a dragon that you cannot see, or you can't tame something that you cannot name. So you have to be aware of what it is that you need or who you need to become in order for you to go past all of those things, because so many people have not been exposed to very difficult things. Like, I'm going to say this with utmost love and respect. A lot of people only just went through the hardest time in their lives during the pandemic in the sort of last couple of years. And that was the one thing that would have actually really, really been a spanner in the works for them. So they didn't know who to become at that particular time. So I can see, where self-awareness really needs to come front and center for a lot of people there.
And as you described the dragon, I was thinking that perhaps the greatest dragon on our journey is the dragon that lives within, is the one that we don't see, the one that, as you say, isn't named. The external dragons, well, you can pull in support, you can help, you can help yourself with that. When you truly trust yourself, you also know that any internal dragon, you can befriend. Imagine that. Imagine being friends with fear. Imagine being friends with the imposter syndrome.
That's a choice, though. It is a choice, right? You can choose to befriend that dragon.
Yeah.
And I can understand, because it's one of your key principles, is that we always have choices. Even in tough situations, we can choose to be whoever we need to be in that particular situation.
We can choose how we feel about it. We can choose what to do about it. We can choose what meaning to give it. Yeah. I would argue that the greatest choice that we have is the one to befriend the dragons within, the stuff that we feel uneasy about, the shame, the guilt, the confusion, the imposter syndrome, the overwhelm, the whatever else comes up in business or in life. When we can befriend that, and one can do that with coaching, one can have a conversation with another person. Just to be clear, coaching isn't somebody telling you what to do or how to do it or who to be. Coaching, as you know, is about connecting with your guide, someone who can, another human who's trained to hold space for you so that they can witness your process as you find your truth and your strength and your courage and whatever it is you're looking for to take the next step. And we only ever need to take the next step. We don't need to even know what is on the horizon. I like the analogy of the spiral staircase. You'll never see the top of a spiral staircase. We just take 2 or 3 steps. And when we get to that 3rd step, we see the next 3 steps. And that's the best way to succeed in anything, is trust the process. Know that there's a structure. Keep close to your why. Have your mind on your why. Why does this matter in the first place?
You would have gone through a big transformation. I mean, obviously from that failure, and then to realize that that wasn't happening to you, but it was happening for you. And you took all of those rocks and now you're building this magnificent wall, not only for yourself, because if it was only for yourself, you would have been curled up in fetal position, but now you're also sending the elevator down and helping other people do and have a happier existence. Now, maybe you would have obviously able to put words to it, but what's been one of the most significant transformations that you feel like you have experienced personally, and how does this now impact how you're teaching other people? Because obviously you've been through what you went through, and now you're just showing other people how to be.
Yeah, I would say that experience from years ago was the greatest transformation, and it was a longish transformation. So that's the other part of this, right, Prosper, is that transformation doesn't happen overnight. In fact, I like to see transformation as an ongoing, lifelong journey. If I stop transforming into the better version of me, like, what's left? For me, my quest is about always learning, always discovering more about me and the world and how other people tick, and how to make this game of life easy. I do find that life is easy. I do. Life is so wonderfully easy when you know how to play the game.
But Vicky, I'm just looking at all this. It's well, good and true. Watching this video right now, it's Prosper and Vicky. They all look like they're people that are heading somewhere. I've been trying to, put my life together. This business is just hanging by the thread. Probably just about to turn 60, or I'm about to be 80. I can't do my fitness. My grandkids don't even know me. Can this also work on people that are advanced in life, or does this only have to work on 5-year-olds that want to do yoga?
That's such a beautiful question. And I'm grateful for now realizing that it did work on 5-year-olds who wanted to do yoga. So thank you for that. And I'm so thrilled that you raised the older age group, because that's another niche that I serve outside of business, more on the personal coaching side. And that's what I call age empowerment. And I'm excited for people when they're 65 plus, because now they have the wisdom of their years. They have the knowledge, the experience, and the insights of an entire lifetime that they get to share with others. And yes, you're right. You will hear older people say, oh, my grandkids or my kids, they don't have time for me. They forget who I am. When was the last time you picked up the phone and called them? Like, where is the personal responsibility in living your life? Do you want to be in the driver's seat? Do you want to create the life of your dreams at any age? So who's responsible for that? Who drives that? Is it because we've now 65 and over, or 80 and over, that people have to call us, or that people need to make an effort for us? And this might sound hurtful or controversial to people who might be listening, and that's okay, because it just means that your belief system until now has been that you've put all the hard work in, or for whatever reason you expect people to come to you to show love the way you would show love. Let's remember, everybody's unique. Everybody shows love in a different way. So if you're feeling lonely, which is, by the way, loneliness is one of the greatest pandemics. It's even been or epidemic, I should say. It's been declared by the World Health Organization. Loneliness has been declared by the WHO as a global epidemic. There's more lonely people in this world, and most of them are from the age of 21 to 27, I believe it is, and then from the age of 71 and up. Who gets to change that? If you don't want to be lonely, change something you're doing. So, as serious as that message sounds, I do celebrate people who are older because they have the wisdom, the insights, the shared experiences, and it's your duty as an older elder to share that with the world. And Prosper, there are some beautiful women in their 70s plus who I work with, and don't be surprised, these women are building businesses. I know of women in their mid-80s starting a new business, building a business. It's their joy. And it's exciting to see that age isn't stopping them. So look around. If you're feeling a bit old and you want to change, look around. Be inspired by people who are already doing it.
Because a lot of people don't have a point of reference. They just probably in and around other people that are seemingly heading nowhere. And, if you can't see, you can't hit a target that you can't see. So I think you've been conducting a few workshops where you're literally bringing in people, and these are actually making a big difference. So for those that are dotted around and, don't quite have those frame of references, I think your workshops will be a thing to join in. How can people get a hold of it, and what can they expect in these workshops?
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you. And so it's a beautiful community of women who are 65 plus. We'll let you in if you're a bit younger. That's okay. And we call it WISE. It's wisdom, insights, and sharing experiences. And we get together. We have community where we are sharing our stories in a formal and informal setting with some workshops, people sharing what their story is in a similar format to what we have here. And also it's sharing circles. So it inspires you. You're inspiring each other. The beauty of community is that people inspire each other. It doesn't need to be facilitated or led. It's about one person sharing something and the others jumping in, collaborating and offering solutions or sharing their own insights. And that's a bit of a mission. That is a mission of mine, is to get more people age empowered and wanting to share their journey, wanting to share their experiences. They've lived a lifetime. Don't hide with that lifetime within you. So yeah, people can get in touch with me just on my website, betteroutcomes.au, because I'm based here in Brisbane, Australia, betteroutcomes.au. And you did allude to some news that we have about a new exciting concept that I'm a part of. And I have a beautiful business partner who lives in Bermuda. So she's on the opposite side of the planet to me, Laura Ann Bell. She's a brand strategist and graphic design extraordinaire. And she's also my business partner and co-host of our podcast, Resilient Entrepreneurs. So, in fact, I'd love to have you on Resilient Entrepreneurs, Prosper. It would be an absolute honor to have you as a guest. So I've picked up that you're pretty resilient. You have a story to tell. And so, yes, that is just on Instagram, Resilient Entrepreneurs, and you can find us there.
Absolutely.
And we're actually going to be launching the Resilient Entrepreneurs Academy in the new year, which will be Laura teaching and mentoring and me coaching and mentoring entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. How beautiful is that? And thank you so much for obviously the invite. It's not every day, that you get invited to be on other people's platforms as well. So I really appreciate that. And I'll definitely make sure that all those links are in the show notes below so that people can actually see if this is a right fit for them and really get started on their path to resilience. Now, Vicki, there's a lot that we've covered here today. But when we started, you introduced us to this as you put it in your own words, failed entrepreneur that was taking a hike and thinking really bad thoughts. And obviously, you were yearning to find the coach who you have turned out to become. If, say, on that hike, young Vicki came across Vicki of today, who has just written in their brag book how much transformation they're creating for people. What would you tell this young Vicki at that particular time, knowing what you know now about life?
What an amazing question. I would have given her a big hug, first of all. And I would have said, it's okay, babe, you've got this. And it's going to, the path will be smoothed over. It's not as bad as you think. What you're feeling now can change and will change. And probably if I had to put it in one sentence, it would be, is what you're feeling true?
So
Is
many
what you're
people,
feeling true?
so many people get caught up in their feelings, and then they actually make, what's that statement? You make a mountain out of a molehill, and everything just seems big when it's not normally meant to be like that. So, wow. And I feel like what you've just done for us is literally given us a digital hug, which so many people are going through stuff. I mean, if you really look outside of where we are right now, people are going through stuff. It's election season, and some people also on a local front are facing financial problems because of what happened a couple of years ago. So many investors are losing out on whatever investments that they made. Mortgages are actually being forfeited and things of that nature, and businesses at an all-time low, and people don't know what to do with themselves. And I feel like just hearing that somebody went through what other people are going through and they literally walked after that, and they now are the ones standing in front of the podium and telling people and giving people directions of where to go. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely.
It's really important to me.
Absolutely. But obviously, it would be remiss for me to sort of not ask what's next. I mean, you've introduced us to where you've been, where you're at right now, what happened along the journey, and the whole Antarctic swim, and things of that nature. What's next? What can we expect?
I love that so much. I'm going to say that I did swim in the Antarctic Ocean. I most certainly did not swim across it. And that would have been probably just death-defying. It was well and truly enough of a shock to the system to dip into the Antarctic Ocean from the Antarctic shoreline with icicles literally clattering and clinging in the water. It was so incredibly cold and so invigorating, as you can imagine. So, of course, that was something that you do, because if you're there, why wouldn't you do it? How could you not do it? This is a once in a lifetime opportunity. And so for me, it's about leaning into once in a lifetime opportunities. And one that we're creating now for others is that they will, I say we, my partner Laura and I, we're creating an environment for entrepreneurs to truly succeed if they need marketing support in as much as understanding what marketing is and why, not knowing what to do, but understanding why they're doing it. What's the greater purpose? What's the meaning behind it? You talk a lot about this too, and helping people with their marketing and online business. It's such an important piece of the business. So there'll be that. And then really this everything we've talked about today, getting out of your own way as an entrepreneur. And I work with people who, like I said, they've been in business for many years, yet they want to take it to the next level. They want to break through that next level of that game we talked about. And they're just struggling to get through that gate. And it all comes back to what's inside. And it could be beliefs, limiting beliefs, or otherwise. It could be tribal cycle patterns. It could be a perspective of a specific thing. It could be any number of things. And it's usually something that's simple and profound. And so that's the change that we're bringing to the world of entrepreneurs with Bermuda, with Laura in Bermuda, myself in Brisbane, and everywhere, all of our clients and members in between. And it's beautiful.
I like that. And you now created a world with no boundaries, because we now live in a global village. And if we can help each other be, do, and have a happier existence, I think you're doing your part in making this world a better place. So I can't thank you enough, Vicki, for the time that you spent with us and, your insights and just your journey with us on the Online Prosperity show today. I mean, your wisdom and the resilience that you came with. So many people, they don't make it after what you went through, and yet you're here now helping others be, do, and have a happier existence. It really does resonate, and I'm sure our viewers have taken away so much from this conversation.
Thank you, Prosper. It's been such a pleasure to be here. I love these conversations, and let's encourage more people to have these kinds of conversations. Thank you.
Absolutely. I mean, if we can normalize, just talking about stuff, so much would not be swept under the rug. And that's the reason why so many people, as they say, don't go past the 3rd-year mark in business, because they don't normally have platforms like this, or, people like yourself that have gone onto the other side to see what it's like. So thank you so much for the lived experience and for the strength to actually talk about it. Great stuff. Now, for those that are watching right now, I'd encourage you to, first of all, maybe rewatch this episode again, because you would have just wanted to see it through to the end. But there's now that you know what we've spoken about, it will be a good time for you, pen and paper in hand, take notes, because I think Vicki really left a few nice little nuggets in between that if you really listen to them with an open heart and an open mind, you, my friend, will have a business that's profitable and enjoyable. But if you think you got enough from this conversation, that will take you on to the next level. Why don't you share this with someone who's going through something, or somebody whose business is not working in the way that they would have wanted it to? You could have actually, first of all, saved their life, saved their family, or saved a soul that is also on the way to creating something for themselves. So if you're looking to strengthen your own inner resilience and bring more joy and empowerment to your life and business, I think Vicki is the person that you need to connect with. I will put all those links in the show notes below so that you too can get started on your path to resilience. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more episodes like this that are packed with inspiration, strategies, and methods for success. Until next time, bye for now.